Not too long ago, neighbors actually knew each other's names. Front porches hosted laughter more than locks, and a child's chalk drawings were seen as charming, not threatening. I grew up in towns like that, so when my daughter and I moved to Willowbrook Estates, I hoped to capture a little of that old world comfort, a place where a friendly wave still carried meaning. But times have changed. People have become cautious. Some confuse authority with kindness, rules with community. That truth hit me one Tuesday afternoon that began as ordinary as any other. The 911 call came in at 3:47 p.m., breaking the quiet with urgency far exceeding reality. A woman's sharp, breathless voice pierced the dispatcher's headset, claiming that an unsupervised child was trespassing in the prestigious Willowbrook Estates. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars glided into the neighborhood. Their sirens were silent, but their presence was unmistakable. Curious eyes peeked from behind pristine curtains. What the officers actually found was nothing like vandalism or crime. It was my 7-year-old daughter, Emma, crouched on our driveway, carefully crafting flowers in blue, pink, and yellow chalk. Nearby, a red-faced woman in designer athleisure waved and yelled, demanding immediate arrest. Let me give some context. I'm Marcus Thompson, county sheriff for 8 years. 6 months ago, after a grueling divorce, Emma and I moved to Willowbrook for a fresh start. The neighborhood looked perfect: quiet, tree-lined streets, good schools, and a family-friendly reputation. What I hadn't anticipated was the force of nature named Patricia. Patricia, Patty Hastings, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, a terror in yoga pants. The day began simply. Emma and I were unpacking boxes, settling into the house. I'd taken the day off to assemble her new bookshelf, and she wanted to play outside while I worked. I watched her through the window, the late afternoon sun warming the pavement as she built a miniature sidewalk garden with her chalk set. I didn't notice Patricia until the telltale clack of heels approached. At 52, she walked like a lifetime spent enforcing rules no one asked for had hardened her. Blonde hair pulled so tightly it looked like a permanent facelift. Her expression was a constant scowl. She stormed across my lawn like a drill sergeant, barking something at Emma. My daughter looked up, puzzled, unsure why the stranger was looming over her like a storm cloud. I got to the door just as Patricia whipped out her phone. Emma ran to me, frightened, trembling. "The lady said I'm not allowed to play here, and she's calling the police," she whispered. I told her to keep drawing and stepped outside to confront Patricia. She paced the sidewalk like a drill sergeant, loudly citing suspicious activity and unsupervised children. I introduced myself calmly as Emma's father and the new homeowner. She didn't even blink. Instead, she recited, in a tone fit for a courtroom, that children weren't Alouette supervised in common areas. Bylaw Section 12(4), she quoted. I explained firmly that Emma was on our private driveway, not common property. Unmoved, she demanded proof of ownership, HOA registration, and even my identity. Then, with the interdimensionally years of unchecked power can breed, she started snapping pictures of Emma. That's when I raised my voice. "Stop." She ignored me. "Gathering evidence," she said, and then, like clockwork, the squad cars arrived. Deputies Rodriguez and Chen stepped out, hands at their sides, cautious but professional. I knew them well, they'd served under me for years. Patricia rushed over, breathless, recounting trespassing, neglect, who knows what else. Emma sat quietly, still drawing, pretending none of this was happening. Rodriguez's eyes met mine, recognition flickering, followed by subtle disbelief. I held up my badge for them to see. Patricia, still on her soapbox, didn't notice. Rodriguez finally asked to hear from all parties. Patricia straightened, certain of victory. She launched into a dramatic monologue about HOA duties, property values, and neighborhood safety. Then Rodriguez turned to me. "Sheriff Thompson, would you give your side?" Patricia froze, her face drained, mouth opening and closing. She scrambled to backpedal, insisting it was a misunderstanding, that she was just doing her duty. But the damage was done. I calmly explained the situation. Emma was on her own property. Patricia had harassed her, snapped unauthorized photos, and filed a false report. Deputy Chen began documenting everything meticulously. Patricia, sensing the walls closing in, started rambling about rising crime rates and her need to stay vigilant. I asked calmly what crime she thought a 7-year-old with sidewalk chalk was committing. She couldn't answer. As more neighbors peeked out, drawn by the commotion. The truth began to emerge. Mrs. Chen, 2 doors down, started recording on her phone. Mr. Williams, from across the street, stepped onto his porch, arms crossed, watching with a long-delayed satisfaction. Patricia's pattern of terrorizing the neighborhood for years was coming to light. Rodriguez ran a quick check. 47 calls to 911 from Patricia in the past year alone. Every single only trivial lawn height, parking angles, minor noise complaints. A pattern had been established. False reporting, especially in our county, is no small matter. When I informed her she'd be cited for misuse of emergency services, Patricia erupted. She screamed about lawsuits, flaunted her lawyer husband, and claimed she'd been protecting the neighborhood for 15 years. I reminded her that a real estate attorney wouldn't help much in criminal court, and that those 15 years of harassment did nothing for her credibility. When she dared to point a finger at Emma, blaming her for all this, I switched to the sheriff's voice. Loud and clear, I warned her that if she so much as looked at my daughter again, she'd face charges for harassment of a minor. The deputies flanked me, steadfast. The tide had shifted. Neighbors began speaking up. Mr. Williams recounted how Patricia had once called the Polichetto his grandson's birthday party. Mrs. Chen shared how she'd been cited for Lunar New Year decorations. A young couple mentioned Patricia threatening fines because their baby cried too loudly. By the time Chen finished the citation, Patricia stood trembling. The fine, $5,000. And that was only the beginning. Mr. Williams, a retired judge, immediately organized an emergency HOA meeting. Within 30 minutes, 50 homeowners gathered on his lawn. Patricia's allies vanished. Her reign was ending in real time. Her husband came home to a neighborhood in revolt. After scanning the citation, he went pale, offering profuse apologies. By 6 p.m., Patricia Hastings was suspended from her HOA presidency. The fallout continued. Legal fees piled up, civil lawsuits were filed, and restraining orders were issued. Her employer placed her on leave. The district attorney prepared charges, and at her arraignment, her bail was set at $10,000 with a strict no-contact order for all complainants. As she left the courthouse, her once imposing heels clicked weakly against the concrete. She turned to glance at me, no fire left in her eyes, only fear. She tried to speak, but no words came. Her husband silently guided her away, the weight of consequences finally sinking in. I went home. Emma's flowers had faded slightly in the sun, but they were still there, and for the first time since moving to Willowbrook Estates, it finally felt like home. If this story resonated or reminded you of someone who finally had enough, give it a like. And if you believe more people need to hear stories about standing up, speaking out, and setting things right, hit that subscribe button. There are plenty more where this came from.